to Post-Traumatic Thriving. I am your host, Dr. RandallBell. I'm joined with Tanya
Hi, everyone.
Nice to see you.
Likewise.
And we got a super cool young guest in the house.
I like how you emphasize young.
Fausto Castellanos. Did I get that?
Fausto Castellanos.
That was perfect. I like how you paused.
I'm trying. It took me 3 weeks to get Buttafuoco down.
But you got it.
I'll have it down here soon. Hey, welcome, Fausto.
Yay.
Glad you're here.
Excited.
I was talking to Tanya and I said, we have nothing but like 10 out of 10 guests, like crazy great guests.
Yes.
People have been on Oprah and winning these awards and that awards and crazy cool stuff. But we need to get some younger people in.
Yeah. Yes. And because the younger generation today have many stories that need to be shared.
Yeah. So Fausto, I already know you're a cool dude because you were born in Fullerton, California, which is exactly where I'm from. And for those who don't know, Fullerton is just immediately north of Anaheim where Disneyland is.
Right.
All right. So tell us about your your birth, your childhood, introduce yourself. And I can't wait to get to what high school you went to find out, if we're rivals.
Are we on the same team?
Who knows?
Let's just see. Just tell me the high school you went to.
His parents may actually be like your friends. You never know. And when you said you're a cool dude, I didn't even expect you to go to school. I thought because of all his tattoos.
What? I didn't follow that. Did you follow that?
I think I did.
Okay. Well, whatever. What high school did you go to?
I went to Valencia High School.
Oh, man.
Where'd you go? Fullerton High?
I went to Troy.
You went to Troy.
I went to Troy High. I'm a Troy High warrior,
Yeah.
but
I partied there.
Valencia. Okay, we all did. But anyway, so tell us about yourself and tell us about growing up in Fullerton. Where you came from?
Yeah, so I grew up in Orange County, California, in the city of Fullerton, and grew up in an apartment complex, so not a home. And I can remember, it's wild too, because like for a long time I couldn't really remember my childhood. So what I do remember though is I always remember like I was a really kind, innocent kid, right? Like a 3-year-old, 4-year-old kid, just kind and innocent and loving. But my father was, as you would call it, a narcissist. So my early memories really were always me walking on eggshells. Like I can remember just like never feeling safe at home because I never knew what my dad was going to come home to. Like, what was he going to be? He's going to be crazy. Is he going to be calm? And because of that, I really was never home. So I can remember from like maybe 5 years old or maybe younger, I was always outside playing with like my friends in the apartment complex. And so just that's basically how it was. I mean, like my dad, I know was a drinker. He did drugs, but at the time when I was that age, like I didn't know that.
Okay.
That's my dad, like, I don't know. I wanted my dad's attention. I wanted my dad's affection, but like, I mean, I can remember putting too much salt in my food and he'd start screaming at me.
For putting too much salt?
Wow.
Yeah. How old were you when that happened?
Elementary school, for sure. I remember, at one point I found out too that my parents separated when I was 5. See, I didn't even know that. But when I look back, I'm like, oh, it was okay. I guess that makes sense why he was sleeping in the living room at one point. Is that why we moved out of the 2-bedroom apartment when I was 5 to a 1-bedroom? So, as I got older, I was able to put the pieces together. And so, yeah, always just scared of my dad constantly. I mean, I remember my dad saying like, oh, I'm going to kill your mother.
Oh my God.
My God.
And so me and my mom would like hide when we'd see his truck outside the house. And, I was full of anxiety, full of insecurity. I felt so disconnected from everything. And I learned to live in my head. So it wasn't that I had ADHD. It was like hearing my dad scream at my mom consistently every day. I just learned to live in my head because that was my safe space. And so that's why like I've always been in my head.
Wow.
It was because of that, and that was the version of my dad. That's what I thought was normal and stuff like that. And like, I mean, even to the point where like if I got a bad grade, he's like, I'm going to shave all your hair off. You know what I mean? Because of that. Or I didn't say something correctly, or I was too shy to do something. He's just screaming and yelling and cussing. And, one time I woke up and my dad was in jail. I guess he was, trying to physically abuse my mom. I had no idea. I was asleep in the living room with my friends and stuff like that. So yeah, I grew up in a very dysfunctional home because of my dad.
Abusive home.
Yeah. No kidding. Fausto, did you have siblings or were you an older
A younger
child?
sister.
Okay.
So, but when all this is going on in elementary school, my sister's 6 years younger than me.
Okay.
You know, so she's a little kid at this point, or baby,
A baby.
when all this is happening.
So here you are growing up in Orange County. Everybody thinks it's just rainbows and unicorns. And every little boy wants to have a dad who they can play with and play catch and, you know, hang out with and be proud of. And you were kind of born into your trauma.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Since the earliest I can remember, like if you were to ask me, what is one good memory with your dad? I don't have one.
Oh,
that's
I literally don't. And that's why it's been really hard for me at times when I see dads being nice to their kids.
Yeah.
You know, it hurts because I'm like, you know, I don't even know what that looks like. I don't know what that feels like. I can't even try to create that in my life. Like, you know, having people who want to help me out that are male figures. I don't know what that looks like. Like, you know,
and you deserve that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every kid deserves
Absolutely.
that. Wait, tell me about your mom.
My mom's amazing.
Mm.
My mom's amazing, loving, kind, goofy, loves people. You know, she's that person that will, if she has only $5 left to eat, she'll give it to a homeless person.
Wow.
So she's like you.
Yeah, that's where I get that. that's where I get that from for sure.
Yeah.
But what she does struggle with that I know now is, I mean, obviously she dated my dad, you know? So like my mom, I would say she struggles with codependency, right? The lack of self-love. You know, she's a people pleaser. She's afraid of everything, you know, excess worrier. So a lot of those traits also. So, you know, growing up, like I had a loving, kind mom for sure. And, you know, she protected me. She was the one that protected me from my dad and kept us safe, you know. And so I had a good mom, but, you know, like you said, I wanted my dad's love.
Yeah.
I wanted the love from my dad. So even though my mom was giving it to me, it wasn't enough for me. So as a kid, I started to, you know, be a rebel and take it out on my mom, whether it's cussing or yelling or, you know, just avoiding things and stuff like that. It was taken out on my mom.
Did you carry some guilt from treating your mom and taking out your frustrations on your mom? Or?
When I was an adult, yeah. When I was an adult and I was able to look back, I think I was just so. Like when I was saying I felt anxiety, insecure, and, you know, all these things, I didn't know what they were though. I just thought I was broken. That's the thing. So like my whole life was just hiding everything going on inside of me. So I was just living literally like in a delusional world and not even like, I wasn't able to communicate anything and stuff like that. So I didn't even know what I was feeling. I don't know why I was acting like that towards my mom. I just didn't know. I mean, looking back, you can see it's a cry for help and stuff like that. But when I was a kid, I had no idea about mental health or trauma or any of this stuff.
Right.
Well, you said something earlier. It's like that was your normal, right?
Yeah.
So what's normal to you may not be to us. So that's really imperative for people to know. That was your normal.
It was my normal. And that's the thing too. It's like, if you grow up in chaos, then chaos is healthy to me. If it's healthy, I'm bored.
Yeah.
And that's something that I learned down the road too, is just like that's what happens as you're familiar with it. So it's like, I'm going to continue to be in toxic things or chase toxic things because that's what's normal to me. You know, having anxiety is normal. Not having anxiety, I'm like, I don't like this. Something's wrong. It's you.
That's your comfort zone.
Yeah.
I mean, when you grow up in chaos, then the chaos becomes your comfort zone.
Exactly.
Yeah. You don't know what to do in a healthy environment. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
In some cases.
It is.
And I can tell, I mean, I instantly got the fact that you're a kind soul. You got your mom's kind DNA, which thank God for that.
Yeah.
But I did get a mixture of my dad, but that I worked through that, but I did, you know, what I've learned is for me, it was what I hate the most I become. And so the hatred towards my dad began as a kid, and I became my dad in many ways.
Is that right? Well, let's get into that. Tell us when that started happening. How old were you?
I mean, if I look back, just the way I was acting towards my mom when I was a kid was the way my dad acted towards my mom.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, I wasn't aware of that back then, but I can look back on it started at elementary school, little behaviors coming out like my dad.
Right.
You know, and so, and as I got older as an adult, I was really able to see how it manifested in my life.
Right. So what are your memories of school and friends and all that kind of thing?
So elementary school, I remember just being super shy. Like, oh my God, I remember in second grade when like liking girls was a thing, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was the worst nightmare for me, right? Because I'm that guy that will like see a girl, stare at her. I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I say? No, I can't say nothing. Oh my God, I don't know what to say. I'm like awkward. I don't know what to do. So I'm just in my head the whole time, right? And then third grade comes around and then they go, hey, this girl likes you. You know what I did? I ran home. I ran home from school because I lived probably like 10 minutes from school. I ran. That was my coping tool. You like me? I got to run.
Well, there's fight or freeze.
Right? Exactly.
You flew.
So that was, third grade was like that. And one thing I was good at elementary school was handball. I was like the handball champ, because it was so hard for me to talk to people. Like I couldn't get past the surface thing. Like no one hated me. Everyone liked me because I was just always kind. Like didn't matter who you were. I was nice to everybody, but I couldn't get past the surface part. So handball was my way to kind of like, get myself out of that uncomfortability because now I'm actively doing something.
Mm-hmm.
And so played baseball in Little League, played handball in school, got really good at it. 4th grade came around and this was actually something I look back at that was huge that made me act a certain way. So in 4th grade, I got a concussion at school. We were playing 3 flags up and I remember looking at the ball in the air and then all of a sudden the paramedics were with me. And so I had a concussion. I guess what happened was one of the kids fell on me and it hit my head. Mm-hmm. So I had a concussion. So they picked me up from there, taken me to the hospital and, everything was fine. I was there for about maybe 3 to 7 days. And, I said, okay. So after I got out of that, I remember coming back to school and all of a sudden I was important. Because see, before this, I never felt seen. I never felt important. I never felt like I matter. Those things, I remember I got all those things through coming back out of the hospital. I was like, oh, I like this.
Mm-hmm.
So if extreme things happen to me, then people will like me. So I remember that's where the exaggeration trait grew. And then also I totally forgot to, I think that, I don't know if it was that same year or the year before. That's when I experienced, being sexually abused.
How old were you when that happened?
I want to say 7. It could be 7 or 8, but it was early elementary school. And that was, I think it was right before the concussion. I just remember that. And, it was a boy in my apartment complex. So again, not having dad in my life, not having any brothers or uncles. I wanted a male figure. And so the older boys in my apartment complex, I wanted to be just like them. So whatever they did, right? Soccer, football, tag, skateboarding, doing all that. But with that comes bullying, right? They're bullying because they're older. Like I was never bullied in school, but just in my apartment, because they were like, some of them were like 3 years older than me, 4 years older than me. And so I remember, same thing. I'm that shy, insecure kid. Now all this stuff's happening. They're just kind of like, oh, you're a crybaby or this and that. You're a mama's boy, all this stuff happening. Because I don't have a dad and my dad's not there. And so I remember it was one day we were in the game room where they have like a pool table and a ping pong table. And one of the boys was me and one of the boys there. Everyone else left. And what's wild is I didn't remember this till I was 25.
Oh, wow.
So what happened was we're in there and then all of a sudden, like I'm going down on the kid, right? He's telling me to, suck his dick and stuff like that. And when it was happening, I didn't know what was happening though, right? Like I don't know what's happening. Mm-hmm. All I knew, there was a weird feeling with it, something I haven't felt before. And what I thought came out of that was, it was almost like, wow, I feel important. I feel seen. I feel like I matter. This person's treating me differently. And he's not bullying me. He's paying attention to me. He's talking to me. His tone of voice is different. And so to me, I didn't really see it as trauma. I saw it as I'm accepted. This is what I've been missing. This is the hole that I needed to fill because I don't feel safe at home. But it was the next day when the kid went back to bullying me that I was like, wait a minute, what just happened?
What's going on?
So that's when I had the story changed in my brain to, it's my fault. Obviously I don't know what's happening, but it's my fault. He's acting like nothing ever happened, or why is he hurting me again? And so that's where fear, shame, and guilt was born in my life. Wow. It was a feeling of feeling rejected, feeling vulnerable. And so that's what began me suppressing something. Because as a kid, I can remember looking back, it was not a normal thing to happen. It didn't feel as abnormal because, I didn't know, but still it was like the secret.
Yeah.
And, think about it. I'm like a 7-year-old kid when this is happening, going to school. Like, why didn't I say anything? Why didn't I tell my parents? And I think a lot to do was because I thought it was my fault. So it's like, I can't tell no one. So now I have this secret in the back of my head, and I don't have drinking and using to cope with it yet at this point, right? It was more just running away from it, trying not to think about it. I'm a kid. I don't know how to communicate it. And so when that happened, I really suppressed it because I don't remember what it did to me that much. I still question like, why didn't I say anything? But then when the concussion happened and I felt those same feelings I've seen in Porn I Matter, I was like, okay, this is what it is. I just exaggerate things. And so that's what I did. You know, 5th grade, had a seizure. Now I'm epileptic. Hey, people are giving me attention. You know, 6th grade comes around, had another seizure. All right, people are giving me attention.
So you're like 11 or 12 at this point.
Yeah, 11 at this point. Yeah.
Okay.
And so that was my elementary school experience, was again, sexually abused, but suppressing it, not remembering until I was 25. Then I have this concussion that happens, and then the seizures, and, you know, those are my ways of feeling, you know, important in life,
Right.
Scenarios of things. So that's why I became like almost a performer. I became the class clown. I became the know-it-all. I became the people pleaser. I became the exaggerator, because these were ways to suppress what I was feeling inside to get that fix of feeling seen. But again, not knowing that I'm doing this, right? This is all just naturally happening as a kid. I'm just kind of like surviving. I look at them as survival traits.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So that was my elementary school experience.
And when you mentioned when your dad left, did he come back at all, or was he kind of like just gone?
He was, he was around in a sense. He wasn't living with us, but my mom did let him back in when I was, so they first separated when I was 5. And then I think she let him back in maybe when I was in 3rd grade or 4th grade. Cause remember I said he was sleeping in the living room, but I didn't process it. Like, you know, I don't remember my dad not even being there. And then they separated again when I was going into 8th grade, because it was just, again, a lot of fighting and abuse going on and stuff like that, constantly. And so my mom's just like, I can't do this and stuff like that. And so in middle school, that's when he moved out and hasn't ever moved back in with us since.
Gotcha. So, and after that, he was around a little bit here and there, I guess.
Yeah, here and there. And, you know, maybe he might pick me up or I'll see him. But like I said, I've never had a good time with my dad.
Yeah.
I hated seeing my dad. When my dad moved out that time in middle school, I was happy.
You were
Yeah.
relieved.
I was stoked. I felt free to feel safe at home.
Safe.
For the first time. It was in middle school. I felt safe at home.
What was your mom working during this?
Yeah.
time?
So she worked full time, single mom, you know, worked as a graphic designer for AT&T back then. So, you know, she was at work, you know, supporting me and my little sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she's hardworking, great mom, dedicated mom.
Yeah.
Fun.
All that stuff.
You know, it's very common for victims of domestic violence. As you know, I'm also a domestic violence advocate as well as mental health. But it's very common. Women will take, even men, you know, but the perpetrator will come back into their life 8 to 12 times before the victim says, you know what, no more. So it doesn't happen right away.
Right.
We wish it would, you know, but it doesn't. It really, and those are just statistics. I would probably say, you know, victims will take their partner back probably, you know, 12, 15, 20 times before they say, okay, no more.
Yeah. And I believe that, you know, I work with a lot of people. I've been that person. If it's simple, I was like, oh, I got cheated on, but I could figure out why this is my fault. I'm going to justify it and let you back in my life. Oh, it happened again. Okay. I'm going to figure out why it's my fault again. You know, I'm going to go back into this, right? It's that lack of self-worth and self-love, and no one's ever going to love me. So I might as well settle for less, even if it makes my life a mess. And it is such a, it's crazy. That's why when people, like you said, right? People are like, why would you go back? It's like, it's so much deeper than that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You think they want to go back? No, but it's psychological at this point.
It is.
It's like, it's crazy.
The older I get, and I have friends of mine whose parents have been married, you know, married for quite some time, but in their older age, like I'm 52. So something happened, like I was 45, 46, and I was having a conversation with a neighbor of ours. And she goes, I wish my parents would have gotten a divorce when I was a kid, because they put the kids through hell with all the fighting and the screaming. But what we see, what does, you know, more damage is that if you stay, you're raising a violent kid or you're raising a victim. So yeah, sometimes you do wish that, I wish you would have gotten a divorce when I was a baby.
Yeah. Yeah. I think some of the worst advice out there is, you know, you stay married at any
Because of the
cost.
kids.
Sometimes it just goes south. It's toxic and it's just causing enormous damage. And all you're doing is prolonging and extending the trauma. Yeah. Really, you know, so, I mean, and the interesting thing is that a lot of kids that go through this kind of ugly childhood experience, they go violent or they become more passive aggressive when you're talking about being the class clown and reach out for attention and that kind of thing. Fortunately, I think the two, that's probably the more admirable direction.
Yeah.
But it's still not healthy.
Right.
And it's interesting that you kind of recognize that that's not healthy, because a lot of people don't figure that out, if ever, for a long, long time.
But you did say too that as you got older, you were lashing out at your mom, right?
Oh yeah. Once middle school comes in, that's where things start getting more, because I was never a mean person. Like I was never angry. I was a kind person, but kindness is a form of manipulation. So my type of manipulation and doing things of selfishness and self-centered was driven by a sense of insecurity. I didn't think I was better than anyone. I thought I was less than everybody. So kindness was my way to navigate through scenarios, which was really manipulating, but I didn't know I was manipulating. I thought I was just surviving. Again, I was just like, okay, if I do this, I can avoid this, do this. It's until I got older, I was like, oh man, I was doing that without even knowing that. Yeah.
So by just elementary school, you're getting it handed to you. You got the dad who's not being a cool dad.
Yeah.
You can't recall a single good time with him, which is
sad.
Really sad. I mean, I got into it with my dad, but at the core, we had a lot of great times too.
Yeah.
And then you've got the sexual abuse, which is was that a one-time deal, or did that recur?
So that I can remember clearly one time in that scenario.
Okay.
In that one.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you get the bullying going on with some of the kids. Then you're going through a lot of the same stuff that all kids go through, where you're scared to death of a girl.
Yeah.
Especially
in second grade. I didn't even know what boys were in second grade.
I had it figured out. Okay, I thought I did. Right. And then they talk to you and you don't know what to do.
Yeah, you're like,
Exit stage left.
Yeah, I think I had like a girlfriend in sixth grade, right?
My goodness. You had this constant need for love and acceptance. Yeah. And your soul was empty. 100%. So we fill it with, right? We fill it with people who are not good for us. We fill it with drugs and alcohol. We fill it with, shopping, whatever it is. I remember Russell Brand said, he goes, it's like having a hole in your soul. And that's when you kind of need to fuel it and feed it.
Right.
With something.
That's good.
And what's a little kid going to do?
Yeah,
I mean, you don't have the resources. You can't get in your car and drive away.
Right.
You're stuck there and you just have to eat it.
But at that time too, being a kid, you don't know what's right and what's wrong really, because your brain isn't even developed.
Well, particularly when a dad's not there to say, hey, if a kid ever tries to, unzip or go weird places, tell them to go to hell.
Yeah.
And that's what dads are for, is to teach those lessons, and that father figure's not there.
Yeah. That's why I think, one thing I've learned too, is cause I've seen how my life kind of turned out, is if you're going to have, I guess it's one of my things I get almost not aggressive with, but I'm if you're going to have a kid, I talk to the guys, you better be there for that kid. Cause you don't realize, especially if you have a son, for the guys, if you have a son, he's going to want his father's love. And if you don't give it to him and you don't give him guidance, the things that can happen could lead him down a very traumatic life. And who knows if he's going to make it through.
Yeah.
And no one's probably going to know what's happening with him because he won't say anything.
It's a really important message.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amen to that. Yeah. So that's a rough start through elementary school. And so why don't are you ready to go into high school or junior high school?
Yeah.
Which
he's like, yeah.
I went to Kramer Middle School.
Okay. These are all cool schools. We weren't rivals with Kramer.
Did you go to, Ladera Vista?
I went to Ladera Vista.
Okay.
Yeah.
Party there too. I like the people over there. Ladera Vista, Troy, Fullerton.
It was, I'm not complaining about that part of my life. We had a lot of fun.
And when I look to the right over here, I see the beach, and that's where I did my partying.
Oh, we know about that.
We buried the kegs. We had a good time.
Too cool for us back then.
Honestly, Troy High, my memories of Troy High is a very friendly high school. There wasn't a lot of the bullying and people got along pretty nicely, I thought, but not everybody has that experience.
But there's a generation gap here too.
A little bit, yeah.
Because, right? You think?
I like to think.
Right.
Wait, are you older or am I?
Makes you feel any better. I'm 72.
You look great.
Right. Buy my product.
So you went to Kramer.
Yeah.
And tell us about that.
Yeah. So, at this point, I remember I was excited because I was like, oh, multiple schools are coming together. That means more people. Because I've always loved people. So at this point, I had this new style. I became a punk rocker.
Really?
I became a punk rocker. And I remember going to like Bionic Records, buying like 20 band shirts. I got the Liberty Spikes or the long hair. I have wearing all black shirts I probably shouldn't be wearing in school, but I thought I was a badass because I could wear it and be like, I didn't get caught, And I'm doing that. The iPod came out, the first one, right?
Yeah,
so I got like 30,000 songs. I'm like, I don't even know most of this music, but it's kind of cool, I guess. But that persona was created actually to try to, again, fit in.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, I've never felt like I fit in at all. And now you're getting older and you're kind of thinking about like, oh, do you have a girlfriend yet? Or like what kind of music do you listen to? Or like, what do you do? You know what I mean? Like all that's coming up in middle school. So I came into middle school as a punk rocker. I have mostly no idea what shirts I'm even wearing at this point. I know some of it, but I was just trying to play the part. And, sure enough, it was my way to be like, oh, you're one of the outcasts. Yeah, that's why I'm a punk rocker. Definitely.
Mm.
And middle school was cool. In a lot of ways. One, because I came in like that, all the punk rocking 8th graders took me under their wing.
Mm.
I was like, cool, and same thing. I got along with all types of people there. And 7th grade was really fun. And I didn't fail 7th grade only because there was this rule at Kramer. You can't flunk 7th grade.
Oh,
So I think I had straight Fs.
You shouldn't be flunking any grade.
Yeah. So that was like the rumor, right? But I guess it was true because no one flunked 7th grade. And so it was a lot of me just, hanging out with people, maybe go to like a school dance here and there, but always being like, again, the punk rock. I don't dance. Girls they're wasting money and time.
Mm.
All just to cover up stuff though, what's going inside, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it was all just covering up my insecurities. And I remember, again too, I had a seizure in 7th grade, so people kind of knew me for that. Ooh, got some attention again. I like this. And then this is when I discovered this new drug, I call it love.
Mm.
A girl likes me.
Mm.
Oh. And I remember it was like, whoa, I feel seen. I feel important. I feel like I matter.
Yeah.
Now it's the next dose of an experience of like, oh, I like this feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, when the relationship ended, not too long after that, I thought she didn't want to be with me because I was sexually abused by a male.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought in my head. I was like, oh my gosh, like they know. It must be because I'm not good enough, right? Because I didn't realize how I was already developing codependency traits, right? I didn't know that. So I didn't know. I thought I wanted to be in the relationship. No, I needed to be in it because I filled that void again. And so when I had that perception of that's why it didn't work out, I spiraled. Because again, nobody knows what's going on at this point, right? No one knows. So as a kid, I was like, how do I figure this out? And so when 7th grade was over, going to 8th grade, I became a skateboarder, had my own style that I created. I started working out, getting in shape, and getting piercings. So I was like, okay, this is going to fix me.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to make me more manly. Get into 8th grade. And 8th grade was cool again too. This time you could flunk. So I did try. And I remember, again, I met a girl. So I was like, oh, I fixed it. Okay, I'm fixed. This thing that I changed about my physical appearance is like, this is what's making me feel complete. She likes me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, when that relationship ended too in 8th grade, it was the same thing. I was like, oh my gosh, she knows too. So I go through my second spiral.
Mm.
See, because this is when I started to notice the trauma in my life affecting me, right? Because I'm like, oh my gosh, they know.
Mm-hmm.
So after in 8th grade going through that spiral, I remember it got to a point of same thing. How do I fix this? And so the summer before going into high school was, okay, I got to keep on working. I got to get stronger. I got to get tattoos. That's what it is. It's tattoos. I got to change my whole look again now. So instead of having the long hair, now I got short hair again. You know what I mean? And doing that and then going into 9th grade, now I'm in high school. Okay, new school, same people. All right. And the first month was cool. And then the second month, guess what happens? I meet
A girl.
A girl.
So I'm like, love drugs
We-
back.
We are no good.
Right. So
You said it.
oh man. And so at this point, you know, I'm with this, I meet a girl and I'm like, oh, again, I'm fixed. I did it. This is what it was. It was the tattoo, right?
Yeah.
I'm fixed. And then sure enough too, same thing, you know, it did not work out. And I thought she
Mhm.
knows I was sexually abused too. And so at this point, this is when things started to spiral for me. Cause I was like, okay, I don't even want to go to school anymore.
Mm.
I can't handle this. And so in that thought process, I had two bright ideas to get out of school.
Hmm.
The first one was, I'm going to fake my own death.
That's a new one.
Yeah.
Never heard that one. And we've had some pretty incredible guests on this show.
So you gotta think, I'm this ninth grader. I'm like, oh, great idea.
He's a Houdini fan. So
Oh, I'm a magician too. So
Oh, are you?
yeah. So like, I was like, yeah, this is when YouTube came out. So it's like 2007 and MySpace was the thing.
Mhm.
So I went on YouTube and I've been editing videos since I was in fourth grade. I learned how to do it. I taught myself. So what I did was like, okay, I got it. I have a picture of me in fourth grade getting an EEG scan. I'm going to grab that picture. I'm going to find a picture of a car crash. And then I'm going to put Incubus music to make it emotional and post it on YouTube and post it on MySpace.
whoa.
And so again, remember, I'm a kid that always has good intentions. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, oh, let's do this. I don't know it's it's a bad thing. I've always been that kid, you know, very innocent,
Mhm.
but it gets me into trouble. So I post the video, it's out there, and people thought I died.
Oh man.
Now, the thing is, the reason why it did not work is because people came to my house to support my mom,
In there.
and all the kids saw me alive,
Hmm.
and they were like, fuck you.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, that didn't work. That was probably a bad idea.
Yeah, that pissed a lot of people off.
Yeah. Luckily, that was back then. Or maybe now it'd been even worse.
Yeah.
Everything going on.
For sure.
So I was like, okay, cool. You know, okay. Plan B. I'm gonna tell the school and my family that I'm hearing voices to kill people. That's what I'm gonna say. They'll send me home for that, right? Yeah, I'm saying
Well, they'll send you somewhere.
Let's get
Take it
that
all
going.
home.
Again, thank God this is back then. Not now.
Yeah.
So I shared that and they're like, oh, really? You know, really? I'm like, yeah. They're like, oh, okay, give us 1 second. I was like, okay. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get out of school, you know? And then bam, you're going to the psych ward. I go,
Oh, yeah.
what? I go, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I swear I didn't do it. I don't hear voices. Like, sir, you need to calm down. Like, no,
wow.
I'm kidding. I didn't want to go to school. And then they give you the butt juice. So then they sent me to, I think, San Diego on a 5150.
Mhm.
And then the kids taught me in there because I had like 2 roommates at the time. That, you know, we're like, I don't know, 13-year-old kids, 14-year-old kids. And, you know, they taught me, hey, you have to pretend that you're not crazy little by little to get out. I was like, what do you mean? They're like, if you say you're not crazy, they extend your stay. And so they did. They extended my stay there, of course. I think it became like a 5250 or something. And yeah, I remember too, like being in there and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm not crazy. These people are crazy in here and stuff like that. So after getting out of that, I got my wish though. I got out of school. It took me out of school.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, perfect. I don't have to face these feelings that I've been fearing of that these women are leaving me because of my abuse.
Mm.
Mhm.
And remember, I always anxiety, always anxious, always feel like I'm walking on eggshells still, but don't know what it is. So I did anything to avoid it. And so now that I'm not in school, I got introduced to drinking and using. That's what it was in 9th grade.
In 9th grade, you
Yeah.
started drinking and using.
Yeah,
Okay.
because somebody was like, hey, do you drink? And I'm like, yeah, right, because I want to fit in.
Mhm.
Do you smoke weed? Duh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, so, you know, the first time I drank, it was amazing.
Mhm.
I didn't have no more anxiety. I was confident. I didn't care about my past anymore. I felt connected to people for the first time.
Mhm.
And I just felt, you know, like I didn't give a fuck.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I need.
Right.
Yeah.
This has fixed my problem.
Yeah.
If I could just drink all the time, like I'll be fine. And so that's what hooked me to it. And so through 9th grade was, you know, drinking and smoking weed. I don't have to worry about sobering up. My mom is very gullible, right? She doesn't know I'm doing any of this. Oh, I'm just tired. And I'm just hungry.
Mhm.
And so that was my lifestyle right there all through 9th grade. And then in 10th grade, I got introduced to ecstasy out here. Now I'm doing ecstasy and stuff, you know, doing all that all the time. And again, very innocently. I'm not doing any crime or nothing. I'm just at my house.
So
doing that.
ecstasy in 9th grade.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. So ecstasy, weed, and alcohol at this point, every
Okay.
week, constantly.
Uh,
And, you know, I didn't see it as anything bad. I was having fun at this point.
Mhm.
where were you getting the money to support
My
this?
mom. You know, I need some money. I got very manipulative with stuff.
Okay.
You know, I don't have a dad, so give me money. Or like, I feel like this, or I used to tell my mom this all the time. I would tell her, I'm going to kill myself if you don't fucking give me money.
Wow.
And I'd have butcher knives and put it to my throat and walk around in the middle of the night just to try to manipulate it to get the money. Cause again, inside, because I was so hooked. I was like, in my head, you know, the reality was I wasn't crazy or anything like that. But the truth was I need this stuff to feel okay.
Yeah.
People are going to figure out who I am. I need to have these drugs and alcohol to survive. Because see, I've been thinking about killing myself since I was 7. So that took away those feelings, those thoughts, you know? So that's what was driving. I had to figure out, you know, how do I get the money? Okay. When I throw a tantrum, I get attention. Oh, when I tell my mom I don't feel good, she kind of gives me attention. She wants to hug me and love on me. I wonder if I could get money. Maybe if I go to the extreme of it, because she's so worried about me. That's what I was doing it for.
Wow.
So that's how I was able to you know, feed my buying habits of it.
So where's your sister in all this?
In the house, you know, you know, my sister's there all the time, but I wasn't.
What was she like? I mean, was she?
It's a little opposite of me. She's a super sweet girl, calm, quiet, you know, just being a kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I didn't see nothing affect her from my dad because she was so young.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? It was more just me. If anything, I never felt like I was connected with my mom and my sister either, though.
Okay.
I just felt like I was invisible in the house, and they weren't bad people. I felt invisible.
Yeah.
In my house.
Right. And so kind of looking back, you're kind of traumatizing your mom and maybe even your sister.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I talk to them now, and you know, I understand. I did. My sister too is like,
right.
She's like, yeah, I didn't have my dad. Mom had cancer, and I didn't have a brother.
I didn't realize your mom had cancer. Why don't you share about?
So that's later in the story. It comes
okay.
out, yeah.
Okay. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And then I want to go back to the punk rock thing. So, I mean, well, a couple things. One is, you know, social distortion, DI, Casey Royer. Do you know Casey Royer from Adolescence?
I know Adolescence. Yeah, my buddy's the drummer for Adolescence. Right now.
Okay, well, Casey, I went to literally kindergarten with. Yeah, and he got into punk rock.
And I played
after high school.
I played the Bee Gees and Depeche Mode and
I like
Barry Manilow.
I'm not saying I was a fan.
Barbra Streisand.
No, but I guess it kind of came around, but it sounds like the punk rock thing kind of gave you an identity.
Yeah.
Where you could kind of fit in with your niche and feel accepted in that niche.
Yeah, because there's the outcasts, right? It's kind of they're all kind of like those rebels, and being a rebel for me was a coping tool. So to play that character but have an identity with it, I was like, okay, this is working for me.
Yeah. Well, and Mike Ness lived right down the street. I mean, Berlin was going off in town. Gwen Stefani. I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on in the Anaheim, Fullerton area.
Yeah. That's right.
Music was a big deal. Still is.
Yeah.
But so again, it gave you a place to belong, if you will. You know, one thing I've noticed about punk rockers is that behind the spikes, you know, if you can maneuver and not get pierced. You know, no, at the heart of, you know, like Casey is one of the coolest guys on the planet. A lot of these guys are very mild, cool, kind people behind that tough exterior. Did you find the same thing going on, or what was your experience with that?
I mean, a lot of the punk rockers I got along with so well.
Yeah.
I mean, like, till this day, some of them are still my friends. And like, even when I helped open up a skate shop, which was also a music store, and the singer of Death by Stereo is one of the owners, and he's friends with all those people. Like, that's why some of his friends are in Adolescence, all these bands. So I'd meet a lot of them. And yeah, they're the coolest people ever. Super down to earth, goofy, funny.
Yeah, very funny, goofy. Yeah.
Never judge a book by its cover.
Nope, not even by its first chapter.
Right? Not even by its first chapter. I like that.
Yeah. I just remembered my sister babysat Casey and, you know, changed diapers and stuff. They're real people.
They are. Yeah.
Okay. So we've covered elementary school. We've covered
middle school.
School.
We're almost done with high school.
Yeah. Anything else you want to share about that whole stage of life?
Yeah. So, there's another one of the biggest traumas of my life happens. So, I mean, there's actually a lot more. So, So as like I said, 9th grade, I'm drinking now, I'm doing ecstasy and weed, and it's all very, you know, innocently. Well, in 10th grade, I wasn't in school, but I'd be 10th grade. This is when I experienced getting more heavier drugs, meth, crack, cocaine. I even tried becoming a gangster at this point. Again, I was just trying to fit in, always constantly trying to fit in. So again, I changed my style. I shaved my head now. I got a mustache, 4X tall shirts, 501 Levi's, but that's not me inside. I'm playing a part, skateboarding, you know, all that stuff. And in that season, you know, I was molested for 6 months. Mm-hmm. You know, it was, you know, and it happened through a family friend. And when it happened, this is the part that was really confusing for me. I was okay with it. I was under the influence of meth, which when you look back makes sense. But because it happened to me as a kid, it was like, well, this is my life. And because there was physical arousal connected to it, well, it must be my fault because I'm enjoying it. I probably shouldn't have enjoyed this if it's wrong. I don't know. I'm a kid. I don't know. And so the fact that I allowed it to happen more than multiple occasions, that was a level of trauma for me because no one knew and I didn't want to tell anybody, but I would go back over and over and over again, you know, allowing it to happen. And so all those memories, hiding that was really difficult. Because, you know, you see in movies, I was kissing in movies, oh my gosh, molested, it's such a terrible thing. People cry. I can't believe this happened to me. I was thinking like, why did I enjoy it? Oh my gosh, it is my fault. And the psychological part, because I thought it was my fault, I couldn't say anything. But you think about it, I'm a 14-year-old kid and the guy's, you know, in his 50s, like,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So you would think like, who's really.
So this is like full on crime.
Yeah.
So you would think, right, like, who's in the wrong? But at that time I thought I was. And so that, you know, really messed me up. Once I got out of that situation, thank God. But again, it was just another secret now. So now that I added to that, and I drowned it for the next 3 years of high school with partying. I was a party guy, the DJ, the guy that has all the cool parties, goes out there, fun guy, nobody knows, you know. And then 18 years old is at a high school. You know, I met a girl. So I thought, all right, I don't ever have to face anything that happened to me in my past. I got a girl again. I'm going to be good. I'm loved. I matter. I'm important, you know, and being in that relationship I was taking steroids. Now I'm doing that aspect of it, you know, more tattoos. I got a different look again, going for a different look and stuff like that. You know, working at the skate shop. Now I'm working at the skate shop. So I was like, okay, this is cool. Like, I'm crushing it now in life. But then 21 years old comes around and my addiction's still there. So of course it ruins the relationship. You know, that's what the relationship didn't work out. Both parts, things happened. But again, too, my head at the time, I didn't know it was my fault, right? At my time, I'm like, oh my gosh, she left me too. She must know I was molested and sexually abused.
So this is girl number 4.
This is girl number 4 now. So we were together from 18 to 21 or maybe 20, off and on. I was toxic. But yeah, you know what I mean? At that point I was working a job, I'm on steroids, but behind the scenes, I'm a drug addict. I'm an alcoholic, you know, but I didn't see my part in it at that time. I just thought, oh my gosh, she left me too because I was molested by a guy and sexually abused. So I spiral. I stopped showing up to work. I overdose. I wake up in the hospital. My mom sees me. I'm like, oh my gosh, she knows I do drugs now. I get out the hospital, overdose again. My mom finds me bleeding in the street, brings me in the house. And so at 21, I'm like, okay, I need to kind of calm down because I got arrested. So I have to go to court. And so now I was scared to do drugs and stuff like that. So that kind of calmed me down. Just like relationships would calm me down in the beginning. This calmed me down again. So I said, okay, I got to figure this out. And so I got a job working at Lucky Strike in Orange. So I started working there and I was like, oh, this is cool. Everyone's young here. All you guys party? You know, I'm 21. I was like, dude, this is amazing. I can party and get paid. So again, it was innocent fun. You know, I kind of calmed down. I was working out again. I had more tattoos. I had the GQ model look now. This is the new thing. And working there. And then I became a bartender at another bar. I was like, dude, I'm the king. I'm bartending at this place. I'm serving at this place. Like, oh my gosh, everybody wants to hang out with me. You know, it's like, yeah, I give you free alcohol. That's why, you know, and I have cocaine, which is always fun with that. And so I thought I was living my best life. And then sure enough, at 22 years old, guess what happens? Love comes back in my life.
A girl.
5. Okay.
The love drug's back. And I'm like, I'm fixed. I'm excited. You know, I'm like, dude, I have arrived, you know, and then from 22 to 25, same thing happens, right? It doesn't work out when I'm 25, you know, again, of course, there's a lot of my part in it. I mean, my addiction, who wants to be with that? But at that time I was like, oh my gosh, she left me too. She must know I was molested and sexually abused. And so that's why at that point I spiraled so bad. It was like, oh my gosh, I can never run away from this. Doesn't matter.
It sounds like each one of these 5 relationships with girls was, when they broke up, that was really particularly tough on you.
Yeah.
Layered trauma.
It wasn't like you go out with a girl in high school and you break up and it's like, 5 minutes later, it's like
eating bonbons, crying. No, you have layered trauma.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh yeah. That's a lot of layers. Yeah. Okay. So I'm on the edge of my seat. What was next? I'm afraid to ask.
I know.
So at this point, I know for this episode, you wanted me to get to the rock bottom and stop.
Yeah.
there?
Let's get to the, or are we about there?
Yeah. That's where it starts now. It's
okay.
All the things are about to happen.
Okay.
Okay. So at this point, I'm 25. Right before this relationship ended, my mom got cancer for the second time. She got it when I was a kid, but I don't remember.
Okay.
This time she had to go on chemotherapy. She lost her hair and everything. She got one of her breasts cut off at this point. And again, I'm a kid with all this trauma, super scared of the world, but pretending that I'm not, pretending that I'm something that I'm not, right? Like, because I don't want to say what's happening inside of me. So scared. I mean, there's suicidal thoughts left and right. I'm like losing my mind. And then my mom has cancer. I was like, well, what do you mean? Dad's not in the picture and I have a little sister. So for me to try to step up and be supportive, I almost didn't even pay attention to it. I was in my addiction. I was getting high and leaving my mom there, not taking care of her, not showing up to any of her chemo treatments, and, during that time, but I was a good person. I threw her a cancer benefit and we raised a lot of money. Like, I've always been a good person, but like just so much stuff going on inside of me.
Yeah.
And so, as that's going on and then that breakup happens, I lost it. I was like, I can't do this no more. I've tried changing my appearance. I've tried changing my job title. I've tried changing relationships. I've tried, tattoos, piercings, working out, money, reading this, going on this diet, skateboarding, bodybuilding, DJing, like nothing is fixing me. And so in 2017, for about 6 months was just me having seizure after seizure after seizure. I mean, 1 month I had 30 grand mal seizures.
Oh, wow.
To the point where
in 1 month.
Wow.
Holy.
Whoa.
It was so crazy that, so 2 things. One thing is there's a lot of them I don't remember. People are like, remember that one time we had to break down the door? I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah, dude. I remember I was at your house. I was like, I forgot about that one. I was like, oh yeah. I'm like, damn, how many have I had that? In a couple months, it was insane to the point where I could not stop getting high, could not stop drinking. I mean, I was going crazy. I mean, I was not sleeping for 10 days on drugs. I was ending up in motels. I was ending up at parks. I was ending up in parking structures. I was losing my mind, partying, not showing up to work. I got fired from a job now because I'm not showing up. I'm literally in situations that I shouldn't be in. You know what I mean? Because a lot of what the trauma did to me, sexual trauma and molesting, it jacked me up in my mind. Like the things that I, like to me, this is me being vulnerable. What did it do to me? One, the thought of being molested turns me on. And that scared me as a kid. Cause I'm like, why is it when I think about it, I'm turned on. So now that's scaring me as a kid. 2, statistics say if it happened to you, if it happened to you, you can do it to someone else. So I'm this kid looking up to stuff on there like, oh my gosh, no. I don't want to do that. The third thing too, was questioning my sexuality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That messed me up so much as a kid, because I was just confused. I was a confused kid. I know what's happening and I can't talk about anything. And then the other thing too, it's like, intimacy has forever been, complicated now for me. I to get to feel safe takes so much work, but but not talking about it, I had to play the part. Oh no, let's do this. Yeah, I feel comfortable. Oh yeah, but really I was just dissociated all the time, just dissociated, trying to play this part. So there's so many layers of what it was doing to my mind, right? Like till this day, I'm scared of kids.
I get you.
I've talked to my therapist about it too, and I'm like, dude, I'm more afraid of kids than adults. I will literally wait in my car at like where we do events at. If I see my my pastor's grandkids out there, I'll sit in my car for an hour until I see them go inside because I'm so afraid to walk past them.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a lot worse, but it's still there, right? So that was another thing I had too. I mean, like carrying that with me too. Like again, I'm navigating all these things inside, never talking about it. I'm like so much built up suppression over so much time. So that's why when I was having all those seizures and I was drinking and I was using and I'm trying to escape and lost my job, my mom has cancer, I'm heartbroken. I tried hanging myself. I tried taking a bunch of pills. Like I just couldn't handle living at this point.
Wow.
My God.
I just couldn't. And so it was so dark. Like when people killed themselves, I'm like, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't see a minute into my future. I was so scared. I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to happen today.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just is. I can't take this. I was so mad at this concept of God. I was like, God, if you're so real, why do you have me molested? Why do you have me abused? Why do you give me anxiety? Why do you make me insecure? Why'd you give me such a shitty dad? Why do you give me these thoughts? Why do you give me these desires? Why do you make me so afraid? Why do you like my mom, the one nice person to me, my mom, why do you give her cancer? You know what I mean? Like there's so much responsibility that I felt that was on me and I just couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
No kidding. And you're 25.
25.
And I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. It sounds to me as if you have gone through this entire train wreck and you haven't had a single person you could sit down and talk to and open up about it.
100%. I never talked about anything.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know. I didn't know I could. I never had that opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't do any, like I just didn't.
Yeah.
And when you're that young, you don't even really even know what a therapist is. I mean, I was going to school to be a therapist and I never even thought about going to therapy myself. I was like, I don't need to go. But yet I had all this unresolved grief and all this unresolved trauma. And I love the way you depicted depression and suicide, because I'm telling you, people go, I don't understand. And I go, you will never understand until you've been there. My mom my mom said to me one time, she goes, were you not even thinking about us? And I go, no one exists.
Yeah.
It's just you in that little bubble. And unless you've been there, it's the hardest thing to explain and describe. But you did a beautiful job doing that.
I've never heard an articulation like that. That's just so powerful.
Yeah. That's why I always tell people too, when I speak on suicide, I go, people say suicide's so selfish. I'm like, first of all, no, it's not. You don't know what it feels like to be in that place. You think that we're being selfish. Like, no, it's almost like it's the answer to get out of what's happening. It's scary.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very dark place.
I have a girlfriend of mine whose husband took his own life in Irvine, jumped off a building. And this is 11 or 12 years ago. And she's so angry. She's like, how can he do this? How can he literally, like he dropped his son off at school and 20 minutes later, he took his own life. And still today, because there's so much unresolved trauma that she can't move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she doesn't know where to go.
And the message, I think, is we just shouldn't judge.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going off in other people's heads. You know, we judge on all kinds of superficial things about piercings or tattoos or age or race. None of that matters. We're all human at the core. We all have these emotions. Yeah. And it's just always a grand mistake to judge. Yeah. You know, I walk into prison as a volunteer and I get judged, you know, because I look like the judge. Speaking of judging, or I look like the prosecutor. It's like, that's not me.
Yeah. You're just Randy.
Yeah. And you know, so it's interesting to get judged, you know, reverse judge or whatever you want to call it. And when people are talking about, hey, I was just suicidal, you know, let's sit down and talk to that person and understand what they're going through rather than jumping in with a bunch of our garbage assumptions.
Exactly.
Because that's what they are. They're garbage. We don't know.
And that's the worst thing you can do is, you know, believe that you know what's going on in that person's life or why they did that. And that all comes down to, it's like, why are you making it such a big deal right now? You don't even know the whole story. Like have a conversation. You know, I like to use things that keep me like in acceptance. One thing is I always have low expectations on everything in life. I have high hope that protects me from ever being hurt and let down. Right. Because life is life. Yeah. And, you know, I always try to be like, you know, maybe that person cut me off on their freeway because their son died.
Right.
You know, always trying to figure out a way to kind of navigate these things. Cause like you said, like, I don't know the truth yet. Yeah. So I can't, so I'm like, you always got to meet people where they're at and talk to them. You talk to them long enough and ask them like questions like you care about them, you'll put the puzzle pieces together to understand why they are the way that they are, which will build compassion. we don't choose to be these types of people. It's like things that happened and a kid tries to navigate through life with these ways of being.
Yeah.
And then people go like, how dare you do this and that? You chose this and that. That's dumb. And it's
Mhm.
like, why don't you figure out why that is helping them? Even though you view it as bad, why is it helping them though? What's going on inside of them?
Right.
You know?
Wow. Well,
Mhm.
thank God that your suicide attempts were
Unsuccessful.
Yeah.
Mine too. Yay.
The story,
We're not good at it. Let's stick with what we're good at.
Yeah. Well, your story takes a turn for the better. And that's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah.
Anything else about kind of the dive stage you want to share?
I think that's pretty much it, right? Tons of seizures, lost job, mom has cancer. I'm trying to kill myself, and
Lots of drugs,
Oh.
lots of alcohol.
lots of drugs.
And not just the drugs, the cocktail you're talking about is a really
Deadly.
It's a miracle right there. You survived that.
But you want to know what I did? So like a lot of times I really don't talk about how much drugs I did, right? Sometimes, but like just to paint a picture. And I mean, I've been doing drugs and drinking constantly since I was 14, right? I never stopped. I may go through seasons where I calm down for a bit because I said I met a girl or I'm working out. That's the only reason why.
Mhm.
But I mean, towards the end, I was doing probably about a half an ounce of cocaine to myself a day. That's a lot
That's a ton.
to self, right? I'm smoking meth on top of that too.
Mm.
I used to get a salsa jar, put NyQuil for liquid, put painkillers crushed up, ecstasy crushed up, put meth, put coke, put crack, and then mix it up and get a syringe. And see, I was always scared of needles, so I wouldn't do needles, but I did research. I'm like, how else can I get high? They're like, oh, if you squirt this up your ass, it's 97% chance to high. And that's how my brain worked. How do I get higher? How do I escape more and more and more? And that's what I would do. And that's why I would literally lose my mind in 10 days and not even know what's happening, ending up in the craziest places, disappearing. Like, no, and nobody knew I was doing that. Everyone thought, oh, you just drink and do coke at the bar.
Mhm.
But no, I would disappear and hide it so well. But so many times where I'm like, I'm going to die. I'm going to have a heart attack. I'm seizing out here, seizing out there. People don't know I'm having seizures either most of the time. Sometimes I got caught, but a lot of them, they didn't. And so this was like this hidden life that people weren't seeing how bad it was getting,
Right.
you know, and I just couldn't stop.
Yeah. Well, and
Goodness.
I gotta say, Fausto, that I've got nothing but respect for you because this is tough stuff to talk about. I mean, who wants to talk about this stuff? But the fact is that you're not only helping a lot of other people in talking about it and being authentic, we're helping ourselves.
Yeah.
It's very, very therapeutic instead of bottling it up inside.
Yeah.
That's a classic mistake people make
Yeah.
is bottling
Bottling it up, stuffing.
That's why in the next part, we'll talk about why it's good to express.
Right.
Well,
And not
suppress.
Express and not explode.
Yeah, well, we'll get there in a second. So Fausto, I'm digging your story.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're here.
And you know what? There's so many kids out there who have the exact same life that you grew up in, and you're helping. That's why we created this platform, to educate, to empower, you know, open up the doors, open up the, you know, the site for some people who may not have that outlet.
Yeah, right here on Post-Traumatic Thriving, where we dive, survive, and thrive.
The choice is yours.
That's right.
Thanks for supporting our podcast. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and follow us on your favorite social media. For books, merchandise, or to donate, visit CoreIQ.com. Post-Traumatic Thriving is produced by CoreIQ, a nonprofit with a mission to teach the life skills we all need but are not taught in school. CoreIQ and the Post-Traumatic Thriving podcast are for informational purposes only and do not provide medical or mental health advice. Always consult with your licensed medical and mental health care providers.